What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Couple Things with Shawn and Mallory Ervin today. Mallory Ervin is my best friend. I have known her since 2010 when I was one of her judges at the Miss America pageant. That's where we met the first time. We ran back into each other when I moved here to Nashville, and we have been inseparable ever since. Mallory is an amazing human being. We sit down and do a mom's Q&A. You guys have submitted all the questions. But to give you a couple things, if you don't know Mallory Ervin, please go check her out on all of her socials. She is so much fun to follow. And also follow her husband, Kyle Demiola, because he might be the funniest human being on the face of the earth. Sorry, babe. Mallory also has a couple of books out. Living Fully. Please go read that. For so many years, I knew Mallory's full story, but she wasn't ready to share it. She then ended up writing a memoir and kind of shared it with the world. Everything that she's gone through. It is something that I think everybody should read. She also came out with like a journal guidebook that's called All In. She has amazing merch. She is getting ready to drop a really, really cool product at the end of this year. Do not miss it. And I think most exciting of all, she is relaunching her podcast, Living Fully, on the Family Made Network. So, Mallory Ervin, I love you. Thank you for joining me. And without further ado, Mal, welcome back.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to remember the last time you were on a couple things. Was it with Kyle when we interviewed both of you?
Probably.
Like a century ago, before children?
A century ago.
Yeah.
No, not before children. Before like the second wave of children. Or the third.
Or the third or the fourth.
We did some mom Q&A when we were both pregnant. And the times that we were pregnant together was Shepherd and
yes.
Drew. So not too long ago.
Yes.
3 years.
Also, your podcast is about to come back. Super exciting.
Yep.
That was one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. You actually asked like amazing questions.
Oh, that's nice.
Questions that I had never been asked before.
Really?
Yeah. I was really impressed.
Well, it's probably because I actually know you the best
true.
of anyone that's ever podcasted you before. So
Yeah.
I didn't ask the normal things because I knew the deeper things.
Yeah. Finally happy you came out with a book to tell your deeper things.
Yeah, you know.
The amount of people who'd be like, Mallory is, I'm like, yeah, you don't know her. You don't know her.
You don't even know the story.
You should read Mallory Ervin's book because it's amazing. You guys submitted mom questions.
Woohoo!
Because I'm getting ready to pop out my third and I do everything that Mallory does. Mm-hmm. So also we were just laughing. We literally like lean on each other for everything mom. Mm-hmm. I don't think I could parent without her. I call her every day. I'm like, there's a rash. What do I do?
It's just, you have to have someone in it with you. I was like, we're giving mom advice today. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, even though we just constantly ask each other for it all day.
Literally.
Every day.
Speaking of, Jet has had a rash that's covered his whole back for about 4 weeks.
It's going to be fine. But you know, we get more and more laxed with the
so
parenting.
Much more.
I'd say we started at 100%.
Yeah.
Second child, we're 75.
Yeah.
Third child, you get down to about 10% of the things that actually alarm you and that you actually think are a huge deal because, you know, you're just a seasoned veteran.
It's actually gotten to the point. You have boys before I had a boy, so it made it easier. Mm-hmm. But we've gotten to the point where we send each other like open gaping wounds and we're like, do you think we need some glue for this? You were in Kentucky once, you're like, you got any super glue?
Yeah,
that'll work.
That's all you need.
It works.
Just pinch it together, make sure it's real clean.
Yeah,
that's the only rule.
Yeah.
And then like if you're going around the eyebrow, make sure the glue is dry before you put the butterfly stitch on. I learned that the hard way. I was actually in college whenever I got super glue stitched together.
Well, this last super glue incident, a friend of ours happens to be a plastic surgeon, which is a very convenient thing to have. And he came over and he was just laughing because it was Jet, and he brought over surgical glue and just gave us a bunch of it. He's like, I think you should hang on to this.
That's great.
He's like, you can do
it yourself
for sure.
Especially with Jet. Whoo, you're gonna be gluing some stuff.
I keep thinking, just like every time I let them go outside and play, I'm like, when is like the broken arm gonna happen? And it freaks me out.
Pretty soon.
It's gonna happen. I know it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But
he's wide open. If you guys, I mean, like, because I see Jet all the time, and just the way that he is very different from the other kids his age. He just not 100% sure how much pain he actually feels.
No,
like,
if any,
definitely
really.
no fear. and just really wide open. Just
Yeah.
really lives life to the fullest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gotten to a point where
Yeah.
my go-to saying for him is like, I'm not sure about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even like be careful. It's just like, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll look at me and smile, whatever. My dad just built an indoor tree house, which is like, it sits 6 feet off the ground.
That's awesome.
And he thought he could jump out of it earlier. Yeah, that was good.
Well,
that was good.
He's fine.
He's fine.
He's fine.
It'll be fine. Okay. Q&As. You guys sent a ton.
Yeah, I love it.
We tried to narrow them down into like general categories because there were like 700 questions within a few minutes. Mal, how can people want to know how they can find mom friends as a new mom?
Okay, first off, here's what is really awesome about moms and mom friends. Moms are a group of people who really need each other. So if you feel like you're coming into a season and you don't have an automatic built-in mom friend, which is a friend that just becomes a mom at the same time, which is what Shawn and I were.
Yeah.
As soon as your kids get into a program,
yes,
the moms are like there with open arms.
Yes.
Or maybe it's just because it's Nashville.
We're all desperate.
Everybody's just like, will you be my friend? I mean, was that your experience?
Yes. I think it's very, very hard to find friends who aren't moms.
Yeah.
Or like to make new friends that aren't moms. Because after you have a kid, the only thing that you talk about is being a mom.
And that's like an automatic common ground.
Yeah.
I feel like before you have kids, it's like you're finding the things that you have in common and you're trying to make time for each other, friends and stuff like that. But I do feel like it's hard. And if they're not in a program or like, in school yet, I feel like that's kind of hard. But I feel like the park is like the hot spot for meeting mom friends.
Absolutely.
Or
like any extracurricular activities or after school activities. We actually had a couple friends recently who aren't parents like call us out for like never responding on text. And I just told them
kids.
I was like, you'll understand someday. Don't take it personal.
We have one friend that is always constantly calling us out for the same thing. And I'm like, just wait, just call me when you have kids because you're going to understand. And you're going to understand how this like, it's just a thing. Like you're going to get it. Like stop being hostile with me.
I
like
know.
come over here and see what all we got going on in this house.
Andrew said to one person, he was like, I'm sorry, I'm unapologetically unavailable.
Oh my god.
And I was like, that was a little harsh, but it's true. It's true.
You got to tell me who that was off the podcast.
Yeah. Well, he was on the podcast. Everyone knows. It was
funny.
Todd and Katie. Sorry, Todd. You figured it out. Here's second question. You're going to love this one.
Oh gosh.
I know you well enough. How do you keep up with being a mom and being physically intimate with your husband?
God. I'm going to ask you that question. Shawn, you can
I really don't speak about it either. Mallory doesn't breach the topics of
there are
physical
certain
intimacy.
things that I feel like you don't discuss in a public forum. And I guess that's just the Southern woman in me that's just a little bit more like buttoned up. That's like, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go there with you in a public setting. Sorry. But I do appreciate people, just relationships in general. You and I do a really great job of prioritizing like small things like date nights.
Yes.
This is a season where there's just not as much time as there was when you were dating or engaged or like newly married.
No.
It's a totally different ballgame. You can't pretend like you're still playing the same ballgame.
No.
Okay?
No.
So like just suit up and realize that like you're just doing something. It's a new thing.
Yes.
And you have to prioritize things to like keep your relationship in the front and center.
Yeah.
I do believe though that like, there is a season for everything, and if you don't prioritize your relationship, it's going to go down the drain. And then your kids are going to leave the house, and then what happens?
I love watching you walk a circle around this topic.
You answer it.
I would say the same thing. I would be like, it's just a season.
If you like each other, if you genuinely like your husband, you find time for things in every season. If you don't like your husband, which a lot of women actually don't, I've found.
Which is actually shocking.
Yeah,
we both really like our husbands.
We do really like our husbands. It's not a rarity, but like sometimes I meet people and I'm like, why did y'all get married? Because you really don't like each other.
Well, you have to work to like each other.
You do.
You really do.
I agree.
Next up, how do you parent? Oh, this is preach. How do you parent when you're sick? I'm 4 weeks postpartum and have a terrible cold And wow, it's hard to take care of yourself and the baby.
You start that one because you're pregnant and you don't feel that good right now.
I mean, just lower your standards.
Mm-hmm.
I was basically bawling my eyes out sitting on the couch because like I had such bad sciatic pain that I didn't want to play with my kids. I was like, let's just turn on another movie. Just rot your brains.
Rot your brains.
But then I was like, I'm actually cuddling with the kids, which is really nice.
It's fun.
You just have to have a lot of grace.
Here's what I want to ask you guys too. Do you remember when you were 2 and your parents turned on another movie? No.
No.
Uh-uh.
And you probably thought it was the greatest thing ever.
You would love the movie. Yeah, if you did remember that. But yeah, I agree with that. But I also I think that, you know, having people that can help you, be it your husband, my person that can help me is my husband, or like if it's someone that you've hired or, you know, your parent. I mean, if you don't have the luxury of having someone, then that is really, really tough. I like feel for people that do it truly on their own. But, you know, you've got to have somebody that can step in and help sometimes if you actually are like deathly sick, I feel like. But, yeah, that's hard. There's nothing harder than parenting like when you're sick, especially if it's like a viral thing.
Yes.
Viruses in the whole house is terrible because you just have to like suck it up and keep going. And
I remember we went on a ski trip with Drew, who was, so I had her in October and we went in December and I was puking every 30 minutes. I had the worst stomach bug ever, trying to pump at the same time.
Didn't Andrew get it too?
Andrew got it, but we got it 2 days apart, which helped because then he had her and then you just kind of,
I mean, what can you do?
You fight through it.
You have to.
And it's inevitable. Your kid will get it.
Yeah.
It's fine. Next up, dealing with anxiety of conceiving after a miscarriage.
Oh, Lord.
Any advice that could help?
Well, we've both been there. So I more recently than Shawn, yours was different too because you had it first.
Yes.
So I think that's a different kind of anxiety.
It is.
Because you don't know if like you can actually care. Is it something that like you don't know? I feel like, I don't know. You speak to that and then I'll speak to my experience.
I would say because it was my first, I was the most naive. So it almost made it not harder. And it was, I don't know. It was harder and easier in different ways. It was harder because I had never thought this was a possibility. But it was easier because it was a learning experience. I hadn't like experienced a baby yet. The only advice that I would have for that, for me, was you have to find a community to talk to of some kind, whether it's your husband or your family or friend.
Yeah.
But you have to like be able to like grieve that.
So I had 2 children, my 2 boys first. And then between my second and third, I had 4 miscarriages. So I always got pregnant very easily. So I'd never dealt with any sort of issues around pregnancy or miscarriage or anything. So when I had the first one, I would kind of say what you just said, like you're kind of naive to it and you hear about it happen to other people. You never think it'll happen to you. But it was kind of like, okay, I understand this is really common. I can't believe this happened to me, but, you know, I can get through it. Second one was just like, what the heck? Okay. But like, surely this is a fluke thing. When I had that third one, that's when I was like, what is wrong with me? Will I ever be able to carry another pregnancy? And like the further along you get, it's hard when you have anything from a chemical pregnancy to almost in your second trimester pregnancy. A loss is just hard. But I think you're always holding your breath. I mean, after the fourth one was really, really hard because I was almost in my second trimester and like we'd already seen the heartbeat and it's just like, ugh, you know, every step of it makes it harder, I feel like. But I will say, I did hold my breath for a while when I got pregnant with Sunday, which that pregnancy I carried to term and she's a healthy 1-year-old. I would say after that first trimester, I could kind of like breathe again, but I definitely held my breath. So my advice would just be like, know that you're going to feel like that. There's really nothing that you can do to take that worry away. But I will say on the other side of it, when I see her, I am like, you know what? I hated that I had to go through that, but I'm so thankful that I went through that because I wouldn't have her. Like when you get on the other side of it, I feel like that's when you can have some real healing from it, in my opinion.
It's not easy, whatever way you swing it.
Terrible.
I think that was the hardest thing for me though, is like with this pregnancy even, it's that like holding your breath.
Yeah.
And it gets a little bit better every week, but it's like there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just there.
And it's just so common. You hear about it all the time and you see it all the time. You're always like, just seeing it all around you. And even though you know it's common and you know it could happen, like a 1 in 4 shot, which is a high shot.
Yeah.
You just don't think it's going to.
No.
It's just, yeah.
Okay. Best advice after a long day of work and having mom guilt from being gone.
Ugh. I would say that's the one that we still struggle with,
Yeah.
you and I. Shawn and I are lucky that we have schedules, at least, that we can kind of alter around our kids' schedules. But there are days where we do have to work these full days.
Yeah.
And our kids are right around the corner. And it almost sometimes makes it just as hard because your kids know that you're around the corner and you're just like, I'm like, are they thinking I'm choosing not to play with them? And
I know.
So that's tough, but I mean, I still feel guilt around that. The one thing that helps me is I remember of the 2 parents that I had, my dad was the one that worked all the time. He was actually gone like 5 or 6 days a week, and he was such a powerful parent to me. I'd never even thought of it like he's not around and he's working. It just didn't really affect me. So I'm like, I got to remember that in my own experience with a working parent, that's probably my kids' experience with me.
I was going to say the same thing. I remember both my parents. They worked 9 to 5 jobs my whole entire life. I did, every possible before school, after school program. I was in gymnastics all the time. Like really didn't get to see my parents a lot. And I still have the best memories of them.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like they were gone.
Yeah. And it's like, it's just how it was.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. And like, I think people overthink that a little bit.
Yeah.
Right now we're in just such like a phase of, I love a lot of like the gentle parenting. They'll just be there all available, like there to catch them with butterfly wings all the time. And like, I am that parent sometimes, but sometimes I'm like, you know what? You're going to be fine. Like you're going to be fine and you're going to live a great life if I'm not constantly available to you 24 hours a day, like 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And you're not even going to remember it. Like, but I do like being in it because it's such a short season.
I also think, too, dealing with the mom guilt and stuff, if you're choosing to work, whether it's because you have to or love to, it's just part of life. And I think the best way to deal with it is, as hard as it is, when you come home being like a really present parent.
Yes, I agree with that.
And making up for lost time.
Yes. I also think that really good moms are the ones that feel the guiltiest.
Yeah.
I think that you're just concerned that you want to be the best mom to your kids and you love your kids. So,
is the second C-section, this is for both of us, easier than the first? I'm terrified to go through it again.
yes.
Yeah,
100%.
it's easier.
And then third was even easier.
Really?
Yeah.
I had a
100%.
terrible reaction with my second one.
You did?
I puked for like 7 hours.
I puked on the third one, but it was
Really?
still fine. Yeah.
That's awful.
I think the first one's definitely the
Yeah.
hardest.
Yeah.
You got all that fresh stuff that everybody's like cutting through.
Well, and you don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Like by the second time, you know that it's going to be painful. You know, like you're going to have to get up and walk. You know, like the whole process.
Uh-huh.
So it made it easier the second time because I was like, I remember this hurting so bad.
Yeah.
But I think because of like the quote trauma of the first one,
Yeah.
I like didn't feel the trauma of the second one.
Yeah,
so I was
but
like,
I honestly just don't think it was as it just wasn't as painful. Like all the things that were really painful were not as painful the second time. And I don't know if it was because I expected them, like you were just saying, or what it was. But yeah,
I remember that too, though. Like after the first one, I thought I was gonna die when you had
peed.
When I had to pee the first time.
That's still to this day the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life.
But then I never experienced that with the second one.
Uh-huh. I didn't either,
and I didn't change anything.
Yeah,
but I got up out of bed on my own. I didn't have to have a nurse. I was like, I got that. It was weird.
I know.
Yeah.
I definitely think like it comes with experience and your body. Just, like,
you just lose nerves.
Been there before. Yeah, or maybe the nerves are just sliced straight through.
They're gone
anymore.
Yeah. We're also trying to figure out, me and my doctor. I don't know if you ever had this, but like my C-section scar, I get the most horrific rash that travels up my torso and down my legs, and it stays there for about 6 weeks. And it itches to the point where I have to I want to rip my skin off.
I wonder if you have an allergy to something. I mean, you've got like funky allergies that pop up random times in your life.
So you're not
like 12 years. Whatever.
Cut
Cut that
that
out.
our doctor, my doctor, is trying to figure it out.
Yeah. You got it with both of them?
Both immediately. It's like by the time I get home, it starts.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
It's
it's
like the one thing that you've told me on this podcast that I didn't know about you.
It is
How did you not tell me
horrible.
that?
It's something that I will happily endure if I need to, but if there's a way around it. I'd love
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
that. If you lose a loved one, how can you parent through grief?
Ugh.
Any tips or advice to set an example for your kids?
Well, you can talk about that.
I don't know the right way. I only know the way that we dealt with it when we lost Andrew's dad, which was we didn't hide it from our kids. Like we cried with our kids. We explained our tears. We explained the sadness. We explained what happened. I think the best way to deal with grief is to show your kids how to grieve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too. And like, it's not like you could have like, and that was their grandpa too.
Yeah.
It's like they feel sad in their little tiny kid ways too.
Yeah.
And it's like, how could you hold that in?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was so unexpected and like so sad and just. I think that's really good advice. I would say so. My experience with it was when Jade lost Blaze.
Mm-hmm.
So my sister lost a baby. He was a little over a month old, and so when he was born, they knew that he was going to have to endure some, heart surgeries and some different things. They always thought he would survive. So for us, what was tough was we were praying for him every night. We were showing pictures and FaceTiming, and then all of a sudden, like when he died, it just shifted the narrative so much, and kids don't understand it. And it's almost like kids say the funniest things sometimes. Yep. Like when I can still remember like Ford. Every time somebody dies, he is like they're in heaven now with Bugsy and the Queen. Bugsy's my grandpa's dog that died that really affected him, and like I'm like, yeah, they're with Bugsy and the Queen. Like it's just kids are so sweet and innocent. I agree with Shawn in that you really do have to model it for them right. But something I want my kids to know about grief is like pick yourself up, like grieve and pick yourself up and go on with your life. Like it's hard just to stay in it, I think, because I don't know. And I mean grief is just hard. Grief is hard.
But I feel like my parents were always like a little scared to show grief.
That whole generation. I think. Yeah.
And so I almost felt ashamed showing it, but it felt good because like my daughter will openly talk about Papa now, and how she's like, "Are you sad about Papa?" And I'm like, "No, I miss him." And she's like, "Well, we'll see him in heaven." Like she's just aware of like the stages of it, I guess.
She's also a very emotionally like
it's like a little empath,
in tuned child. So like even if you were hiding it from her, she's going to be able to tell.
Oh yeah.
So then she's probably going to feel like you're lying to her, so then that will pile on a whole nother thing because Drew notices everything. So
she'll even ask like if I'm crying for whatever reason. She's like, "Mommy, are these happy tears or are these sad tears?" And I'm like, "How do you know this?"
That's great. You're like, it only took me 30-something years to figure that out. So
yeah,
it's a good thing you know it at 3.
She's my little counselor. Okay, long one. I feel like this new wave of moms are too open about the struggles of motherhood and don't share enough of the happy stuff. So it makes motherhood look miserable and it makes me scared to be a mom. Do you think there's a balance between acting like you have it all together and sharing only the struggles?
I love that question.
Yeah.
Whoever asked that question, what a great question. Motherhood is amazing. Having young children is the best season of your entire life, I believe. Whenever I had Ford, I was like, where's the positive parents out here?
Yeah.
Like, where's the positive parenting? Like, all you hear from people is the lack of sleep and but I think it's easier to connect over tough stuff. I think it breaks down a barrier. People do it, it's the being empathetic and it's the camaraderie of the hard stuff. I think it's easier to talk about. And I hate that because I agree with her. I agree that there are not enough parents who are openly sharing the amazing parts of being a young parent. I love my life. I love having young children. I wake up in the morning feeling so happy. And sometimes when I go to talk about it on social media, I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah.
But like, are people going to really like relate with this, or will it make them feel bad if they don't feel that? So I think people feel that too. I think that it's easier to relate over the hard stuff, but I agree with her. Like, I do wish there was more of a balance and more people sharing positive stuff without it being like blanket positivity, like head in the sand, like,
Yes.
oh, it's so easy, or
Yes.
because it's not easy, but it's also not terrible. It's really amazing.
It's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And I remember I feel like social media is either the perfect parent who like makes rainbows out of sandwiches for their school lunches on a daily basis, and it's just the easiest thing in the world. They only show the perfect stuff, or they use the hard stuff to make
Content.
a brand out of it.
Yeah. The real, like, I'm a real mom, or like, this is the real behind the scenes. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
But it's like, it's all negative and
Yes.
bad. I agree with who asked that question, that that is rampant all over social media.
But I will say, motherhood is the best thing in the world. In the world.
It is.
And we had we were one of the first, right after you guys, to have kids of our friend group.
Mm-hmm.
And people try to scare the crap out of us.
Yeah.
Just like, your life is going to be over. You're not going to have a social life. You're not going to be, whatever. It's the best. It is the best.
And it's like so much better of a life than you had before.
Yeah.
People want to cling to all those things that, like, you have this schedule that where you can do what you want, and all these, date nights, and you can go on vacations and stuff. You can do all those things with children too.
Yeah. You can do it. We went to Greece with our children. Okay.
You did.
It's possible. Okay. 5 more questions. We have 5 minutes. Please tell me how you function when babies aren't sleeping.
Oh, gosh.
I feel like a zombie 24/7 because I'm not sleeping enough. Well,
I am sorry that you feel like that. We have been there.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And I feel like, so people talk about the newborn phase.
Yeah.
I feel like all the time. Like, that's the sleepless nights, and that's when it's tough. But the sleep regressions and, like, Shawn and I have been through a lot of that, like, with our kids. I feel like every 3 months, one of our children is having a sleep regression, and you're asking me or I'm asking you, like, do you remember this? Like, what did you do? And then you start transitioning away from the pacifier and, like, out of the crib and all that stuff. I mean, you're never going to sleep. I feel like now I'm going back to the negative parenting advice here, but I think your body gets used to it after a while.
Yeah. And you go in waves.
Hard. I mean, you're going to feel like a zombie, especially in the beginning.
I will say this is also like a stylistic thing that both of us do.
Yeah.
But it depends on the person. It depends on your preferences. But Mal and I are both like sleep trainers.
Yeah.
We not personally.
Yeah.
But like
that's our job.
We believe in sleep training. So whenever we get into a phase where like our kids aren't sleeping and we can't seem to get them out of the funk, we will ask like professionals.
You have to like buckle down. And sleep training gets a major bad misconception. Sleep training is not like having a kid scream bloody murder in there and ignoring them at all.
No.
Sleep training is a very specific thing. It's about how much they eat. It's about when they eat. It's about like schedule. A lot of it is scheduling and like when they go down for naps and stuff like that.
And about their developmental cues and like
'cause
milestones
kids
and
need sleep.
Yeah. Yes.
People don't realize when you're following your kids' schedules like constantly. I just feel like sometimes the kids like they need more sleep than you're getting them if you're letting the child decide when they want to sleep and when they want to wake up. I mean, we've got good sleepers
we
now.
do.
But
the past 3 times I've been desperate and I've gone to professionals, they've all said they need to sleep more.
They need to sleep more.
Like put them down to bed earlier.
Mm-hmm. And they always, always, always get better.
Yeah.
Because you think that like, oh no, they're going to wake up more if they sleep too much, or they're going to wake up earlier, but it's just not like that.
No.
Developmentally, they need it. But yeah, I mean, that zombie phase, like that first 6 or 8 weeks, the only thing that helped me was having a day bed in the nursery so that you can swap out. Like if you have room, I mean, you can even do an air mattress. You can swap out with your spouse if you have other kids. That's a big thing. And then just remembering how temporary it is.
Yeah.
It is so temporary.
Yeah.
But it's still zombie-ish.
It is zombie-ish. Find time to take a cat nap during the day.
Mm-hmm.
How do you maintain self-identity while being a mom? Sometimes I feel like it's all consuming and it's hard to prioritize self-care.
That's a good question.
I mean,
you start with that one.
We're both very lucky to have very supportive spouses.
Yes.
I feel like both of our spouses make it a point to like take time out of the day, out of the week, out of the month, out of the year to make sure we have time for ourselves.
Yeah. I also feel like, your identity does shift when you become a mom. And remembering that you'll never be the same person in so many great ways too. And so instead of starting, trying to cling to that old person, just like, who am I in this phase of life? And remembering that, I think, is really helpful too. And just like doing the things that you love to do. Maybe it's not as frequent, but like finding time to be you. I mean, the word self-care.
I know.
I don't know. I just feel like sometimes I'm just like, well, who works anymore? Everybody's just laying out by the pool with a mud mask on their face with cucumbers on their eyes. I love the self-care.
Yeah.
But also, like, others care, and like caring for your family
Yes.
is okay too. It does become part of your identity.
Yes.
Hopefully it doesn't take over your whole identity, but if it does, I mean, you find ways to weave yourself back in. That's my advice.
Okay, rapid fire 3 for you. Ready?
Okay.
What's the best way to travel on a plane with a toddler?
Oh gosh.
Snacks and an iPad.
Yeah, an iPad. Snacks and an iPad.
I saw someone post the other day. They were like, before I had kids, I told myself I would never let my kids have screen time.
Oh.
Now I don't go
Everybody.
anywhere without an iPad.
I really appreciate people that say that sentiment, but wait till you have kids.
Exactly.
I mean, we used to do iPads a lot more, and then now we only do them on Sundays, but they still can watch like TV.
Yeah.
But I mean, we had to take it away because they became obsessed.
Yep.
know?
Yep. What things do you do to help with the transition of one child to 2 or 2 to 3? Anything prepped you and the baby?
I think kids are so excited to have siblings. So to remember that, instead of that you're taking away from them, you are giving them the greatest gift.
I would also add one of my favorite things that I learned or was taught by our pediatrician. We share everything. Was speak to your kid or kids, whoever is preparing for another baby, as if it's their kid and not yours. So it's like put the possession in the child and make it exciting for them.
Yes.
So you're not replacing them with like, oh, mommy's going to have a new baby. It's you're going to have a brother. You're going to have a sister.
Yes.
They're so excited to
Great
meet
advice.
you. Like, make it theirs.
Yeah, he always has the best advice.
Always. He's great.
I love him.
Last one. How do you deal with stress and stay calm when your kids are having a meltdown?
Oh, Lord. Go ahead.
I don't know. Walk away? Tap out? I feel
You're
like...
actually very good at this.
No. So are
You
you.
know, I can answer this question for Shawn because I see you do it. So you get on their level and you talk to them very calmly. I've seen you do that. You actually are better at that than a lot of people that I've seen with kids in meltdowns. But your kids don't melt. Like Drew doesn't really melt down. She just gets like emotional about things, and you're so sweet about the way that you do it.
I will say, that's something my mom always told me, because my mom's biggest fear was to have a screaming kid. And she said, kids tend to match your volume to be heard. And so my mom always said when I got upset, she would whisper.
Yeah.
And so I do that with my kids. I bend down and I start whispering.
That's great
And it
advice.
helps. And then if I get to a point of not coming back, I'm like, Andrew, I need to step away.
Step in. Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's all we got.
Great. Those were great questions.
Yes. Thank you for submitting those. Mal, please give us the rundown of all the amazing things you have coming up.
Oh, gosh. So I've got a podcast relaunching. That's a total relaunch, total rebrand that is with Family Made. First time I've ever signed with an agency.
And it's called
Living Fully with Mallory Ervin.
It's amazing.
Thanks. It's going to be really fun.
You're going to have another merch launch this year.
Yeah, so we do like holiday merch,
which is amazing.
I'm gonna have to start doing a lottery system for because it's like selling out
Yeah.
at such a rapid. I like cannot keep up because people like love holiday merch so much. It's amazing.
I know. I love my sweatshirt, by the way. Thank you.
I'm glad I could create that for you. That was my Shawn cut. So we have a new venture launching in November. That is the most excited that I've ever been to put out a product of any product I've ever put out, because it is a product that is going to bring a luxury of this item to, like, you've never worn anything like you will have worn this product that's coming out in November. I wish I could say it.
I'm excited to get
I'm
it.
excited to get it.
Well, thank you. We will link all of Mallory's stuff down below. Please check her out. Follow her everywhere. She is the best. She's my best friend.
This
and
was fun.
thanks.
Thanks for having me.
joining us.